in a political moment that began as just another panel discussion among conservatives, but spiraled into a defining flashpoint. JD Vance, the rising senator from Ohio, delivered a 7-word statement to former Vice President Mike Pence that momentarily stunned the room and altered the dynamic of their party's fragile unity. The encounter occurred at a high-profile conservative summit meant to promote Republican renewal and cohesion ahead of the next major election cycle, with leaders, strategists, and donors expecting tempered dialogue and ideological alignment. But what transpired between Vance and Pence peeled back deeper fractures, long simmering within the movement between traditional Republican institutionalism and the populist wave that Vance, in many ways, had come to symbolize. Pence, the stalwart of Reagan-era conservatism and evangelical restraint, had been articulating a measured approach to foreign policy and constitutional norms, doubling down on old guard ideals of American exceptionalism through diplomacy, restraint, and moral clarity. Using phrases like global leadership and principled conservatism, with his trademark calm that once served as a counterbalance to the Trump administration's volatility. Vance listened intently, his hands folded, his gaze intense. And when it was his turn to speak, he started by affirming his respect for the former vice president, but swiftly pivoted, referencing the economic dislocation of Middle America. The cultural drift, he claimed, was enabled by Pence's generation of Republicans. And then, with clarity and a slight smirk, he delivered the 7 words that dropped like a hammer in the hushed room. Your era failed us, now step aside. The impact was immediate gasps from the audience, stunned silence from Pence, and a momentary halt in proceedings as even the moderator seemed unsure how to continue. For a few seconds, it seemed Vance had won the crowd, his populist supporters rising to their feet in applause, affirming the indictment that many younger conservatives had long whispered, that the polite conservatism of Pence's era had been steamrolled by progressive forces while Middle America was left behind, addicted, unemployed, and unheard. But what began as a viral moment of assertive political clarity quickly turned, as backlashes from all corners began to swell, not from the media alone, but from military veterans, longtime donors, religious leaders, and working-class conservatives, who had once hoped the movement could evolve without eating itself alive. Pence, to his credit, responded later, not with anger, but with a calm rebuttal that reminded audiences of his steady leadership during the Capitol riot and his refusal to compromise constitutional duty for political convenience, subtly contrasting Vance's brashness with long-earned moral discipline. As the video of the exchange went viral, the tone shifted from celebration among anti-establishment conservatives to critical op-eds warning that the new right was destroying its own foundation in the name of virality, drama, and short-term wins. Vance, once hailed as the intellectual heart of nationalist conservatism, now faced questions about decorum, unity, and respect for those who had carried the party through prior eras. The backlash wasn't just rhetorical. Some donors paused contributions. Influential evangelical groups released statements of disapproval, and even figures like Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk, who had been aligned with Vance on many cultural critiques, advised caution against intra-party cannibalism. The consequences of those 7 words began to metastasize. Not because the claim was entirely wrong, but because its delivery reflected a dangerous impatience, one that risked alienating not only establishment figures but millions of conservative voters who respected Pence's service even if they disagreed with his policy. Behind closed doors, RNC officials worried the division would complicate ballot unity efforts, especially in swing states where centrist independents still leaned on trust in seasoned figures like Pence. Vance's camp released clarifications, emphasizing a broader point about the need for fresh leadership. But the damage was done. The narrative had solidified that he had publicly humiliated a party, Eldar, in a move seen as tactless and self-serving. And yet, in that moment, what Vance revealed was not just a personal challenge, but a philosophical battle for the soul of the Republican future, one between an aging ethos of decorum, diplomacy, and principle, and an insurgent ethos of blunt truth-telling, radical realignment, and a scorched earth approach to enemies both foreign and domestic. The backfire wasn't total. Many still admired Vance's audacity, but the lesson was unmistakable, even in politics, where sound bites rule and base loyalty is currency. There remains a line between disruption and destruction, and when crossed, without foresight, even a winning moment can cost far more than it earns.